in your own right, But so tell us a little bit about you, Jennifer. Tell
Sure.
us like where where you're born, how you grew up, family, past and present, and those kind of things.
All that stuff.
All that
Okay.
stuff. Yeah. So we have an idea who Jennifer is.
Okay. Well, I currently live south of Clear Lake, South Dakota, a little town by Brant. So I commute to Brookings to work every day. I live on this acreage with my husband, and we have 3 children. 2 are grown and out of the house, and our third is a sophomore in high school, and he attends dual in Clear Lake.
So you were a child bride then?
Yeah, yeah. So, in addition to those 3 kids, I am blessed with 2 grandkids. So I have a grandson and a granddaughter. They are having birthdays here in the next few weeks. So they'll be 4 and 3. So I am, grew up in South Dakota though, just about 30 miles north of where I live now, on a farm. And I was the youngest of 8 kids. So 4 and 4. So we had a big, busy house, and, attended SDSU, so I'm an alum, and have a degree in interior design, and practiced that for 25-ish years in a variety of capacities, residential, commercial, and then spent a lot of time in higher education. So I actually worked at SDSU in their facilities department, supporting construction and remodeling projects there. So, and then had an opportunity to kind of change gears a little bit and work for economic development. So my role there is Director of Entrepreneur Support. So I focus on business startups and helping those individuals in whatever capacity they need, getting them connected with the resources within the Brookings ecosystem, which is quite strong and vibrant. We are very fortunate. And so kind of that initial point person for anybody that has an idea. So whether they had a dream last night about this really great thing that they think is going to be awesome and they want to talk to somebody about it, or if they've been thinking about this for 10 years and now they're finally ready to move, or if they're already in business and they just kind of want to talk through some things and maybe feel like they've plateaued a little bit, or are ready to scale and just kind of want to bounce some ideas off. So really, wherever they're at, whatever stage and whatever age, we've had programs that embrace the youth at 4th and 5th grade, middle school, all the way, we do quite a bit with the university, the students there, as well as the researchers. So really geared up to help whomever, however we can. So that's a lot in a little bit of time.
Yeah, it is. And it just shows how varied your experience is. And that, I think, makes you perfect for the position that you're in now relative to the makerspace. Because I think of makerspaces as a kind of phase 0 in terms of a business development before you even, do you have an idea? Is it a thing?
Right.
How can you actualize that widget or something like that? But and we'll get to that. But I'd like you to respond first to by giving us some kind of idea of what the maker space is in its physical state as well as its social state.
Okay. So the Brookings Makerspace, which is just about to celebrate its 5th anniversary, February 1st. So it's been around that long. We are located out in the Innovation Center in the Research Park at SDSU. So that's where we're physically located. We have about 2,400 square feet in that space. And we have a variety of different equipment, and we can certainly get into that in more detail. I did put a link in the chat for a video you can find on Facebook that kind of takes you to a tour through it. I will use that as our first introduction because it's all clean and pretty, right? And it's not messy, and it's not the hackerspace. I was in the office yesterday and I thought, oh gosh, this would be it's being used, which is great, which is a great a thing. But the physical space really lends itself to kind of what you had mentioned before, Lawrence, about those opportunities to meet people that you maybe wouldn't have before. And so, you know, there is an economic development present or pretense behind the makerspace, certainly with innovation and idea and business development. But we're not limiting membership to that. You know, we certainly, anybody that has a desire to make and create is welcome to be a member. And we feel that not limiting that is really expanding the opportunities, because you may be a hobbyist, but you may have some really great insight and mentoring abilities to somebody that really is looking forward to move into a business, capacity. So it's that physical location that allows those interactions to happen. So
Well, relative to the social thing, which is where I want to go, um, maybe you can talk a little bit about the kind of equipment, because I think it's relative to the different kinds of people in terms of different interests and points of view, and how they manipulate the world around them in terms of materials and equipment. So can you tell us a little bit about the kinds of equipment and what kinds of things could be made by a person who's living in a one bedroom apartment, or just renting a room, but then they could come there and make something. Tell us a little bit about that.
exactly. I wasn't there for the initial onset of the project, but it was funded through a USDA grant. So that was how we initially had funds to purchase the equipment. But in that process, we surveyed the community to really, again, kind of gauge that interest level and the areas that they were interested in, and always trying to keep in mind the scale of our community and our region and our state. We don't have the mass population that some areas have, where they can really get specialized in an area. So if you were to look at a makerspace in a larger area, it might be much more specialized than what we offer. But for ours to be sustainable, it really needed to be diverse. And so we really have a variety of things within that space. So we have an industrial sewing machine. So we really try to pick up where your personal inventory might take off, right? So you might have your own sewing machine, but if you're looking at a project that really needs something heavy duty, then we provide that industrial type sewing machine that's there. We have a welding area, we have a metal brake area, so you can bend, cut, curl sheet metal, a paint booth, there's electronics and soldering area, we have 3D printing, we have 3D scanning. So if you have you had that dream that you can really build a better mousetrap, Lawrence, right? So now you can scan that mousetrap. It's going to give you a file. You can manipulate the file, and now you can go print that out on our 3D printers and prove your mousetrap is truly better, right? Start a business. It's great. Then we also have the laser engraver. We have a lot of interest in that area as well. And then a pretty comprehensive wood shop with some equipment that, again, you might not have in your own inventory, including a wood lay, and then our CNC routing table. And so that's kind of another one of those really active pieces of equipment that people really gravitate towards and could do a lot with. And so it'll take material 4 foot by 8 foot, and it'll cut out whatever you can imagine. So you could literally cut out all the components and build yourself a dresser. You could build some signs. You could build molds for concrete pours or resin pours, or, really the limitation is only your imagination. And so the software is there, the equipment is there, and what you as an individual will bring to the table would be, again, that imagination, that creativity, and then any disposable woods and, whatever it is that you're working with in that area. But we have individuals that embrace all parts of that, every piece of that equipment, some more than others, but it really does allow individuals to dabble in a variety of things. You might come in there because you have an interest in the sewing machine, and you might end up meeting somebody and you learn how to weld. And that is really what we're hoping happens. I know a little bit about a lot of things, just enough to be dangerous, I think they say. And so the intent is to really lean on our makers and glean that expertise. We have some makers that have really embraced some of those different pieces of equipment and are way more skilled at it than I'm ever going to be. And so we make those connections, maker to maker, so that they can share that expertise, start that conversation, build that relationship with those individuals. And so we also depend upon that actual interpersonal relationship building that happens there.
Mhm. That brings us to one of the projects that's kind of a spinoff, and that is the food development new project that the commercial kitchen that can you talk a little bit about that, because I think that is uh, a, a nice spinoff of the makerspace.
Yeah. And so again, back when they were looking at the makerspace and those funds with the rural development, a kitchen was within that conversation. But in digging in, the amount of funds that were available, we could either fund a makerspace or we could fund a kitchen, right? And so at that point in time, they decided to go with a makerspace and get that up and going. And then we had an opportunity later, I guess it's been a couple years now since we've received a second grant. So we wrote a second grant, again, USDA, and worked with a local developer. And that part has been really key for that project, to establish a commercial kitchen, again, a shared space for the community that they can rent that commercial kitchen space and maybe take that food concept idea they have to the next level, because we're aware there are limitations within when you produce food within your home. And so you need that commercial kitchen to really get into some additional markets and different things like that. And so having that commercial kitchen space is really opening up a lot of different avenues for people. But to try to establish that on your own is quite a financial commitment. And so again, both of these projects were really trying to minimize that a barrier to entry into the market, and for you to be able to validate or pivot whatever needs to happen, as early and as inexpensively as possible.
Mhm.
So that commercial kitchen space again is looking to be kind of that community hub around food innovation and business ideas. So really, if you've got something that you want to make and produce and sell, that can happen there. You want to do some cooking classes, you want to take cooking classes, you want to do heritage foods, host a cultural night with whatever foods you want to serve. It's really kind of a clean slate, an open palette of whatever you want to make of that space. But again, feeling it's important to have those community connection locations, those physical spaces to make some of those things happen. So again, kind of that incubator concept. You could start in that commercial kitchen and ideally you outgrow it, right? And you do end up with your own space at some point in time. So that's kind of what we're hoping for there. So if you do go into the makerspace, you'll see we have a token kitchen, shall we say, in there, just to kind of support hanging out all day and eating your lunch or your evening snack or whatever it is. But yeah, so we were super excited to be able to grow that into an actual full-fledged licensed commercial kitchen.
Mhm. That's going to offer some very interesting opportunities for connections, because people do tend to connect around food. And as you mentioned, you can do some interesting and innovative things, and people can learn about different ways that people see food. Community can be developed. So let's pivot now to communities. Can you tell us something, any anecdotes or anything about the communities that you've seen, or people connections that you've seen as a result of people meeting in the makerspace?
Yeah, we have a variety of those. I guess it's just kind of
So many where to pick.
well, yeah, I mean, and a lot of that does happen independent of mine necessarily knowing about it, but we've had students that'll come in, and sometimes it's it's coursework related, and sometimes it has nothing to do with it because they want a break. But in those conversations that I have, I understand where their expertise or interest lies. And then we've had some local business people that are also Makerspace members that needed some additional labor, for specific projects. And those individuals kind of have self-selected that they would have some interest by being a member. So we've made some of those connections where people have taken on some part-time jobs because of those connections that have happened there. We've got a new business startup in Volga that's utilizing the space while they wait for their equipment that they've ordered to come in. So they're getting a CNC routing table as well, but they're ready to go now. And they didn't realize that the lead time is like 8 weeks on this equipment that they were hoping to get sooner. And so they're still able to fulfill orders and, do those different things. And they've made some connections there with people just being in that space. That's helped that grow. Again, there's just a lot of other connections, like I mentioned, that mentor to mentor stuff that happens. People have a question about something and I'm like, oof, you know what, they're actually way better at this machine than I am. So we've had some Etsy shops that are really blooming because they have access to that kind of space. Those things that'll happen there, and just connecting people when they're looking for something. I'm like, hey, I think these guys make that, and make those connections. So it's kind of been a variety of things that have happened.
Mhm. Well, I know that in my own experience, one of the first things that happened when I joined the Makerspace is they offered a course on, I think it was the laser, and the different people who came there were from all different kind of walks of life, and so we had a chance to, to talk to people that I would never have met or would have walked right past on the street, but are very interesting characters. There's a certain psychographic in the maker space of people who, like, I don't know if they have an extra chip or a chip missing, but there's something, there's some kind of connection there. And there was also another class where it was about mold making, you know, and these classes are often given by the people who are members of the makerspace who just decide, okay, I'll give a class, and that you guys kind of promote that, like, hey, you got a class or something you could share with other people. So to me, that has been really a key benefit uh, of being part of the makerspace, is that interaction with people and finding people who are happy to share on a one-on-one basis if they're doing something. And you say, hey, what are you doing? What are you making? Why did you make it that way? Or what kind of wood do you use? Typically, people, almost invariably, people are willing to share what they're doing, even share resources, like, well, I get my wood from over here, or I found a free place to get wood, or I know somebody who's dumping a whole bunch, if you want that kind of thing. Or I wouldn't use that kind of wood because there's this problem with it, you
Right.
know. So I think that those are kinds of things. Do you have any anecdotes about any things like that? Because I know you're involved because you've helped me in a number of places.
Right. Well, and historically we've done more of those, the classes, and then we would try to do a couple times a year maker mixers. And so you just an opportunity to come in and have some light hors d'oeuvres and just meet people that you maybe haven't run into before. And so we hopefully will get to do those again soon. We have a maker that has a showroom in Volga, and there was an artist in the makerspace that was painting. And he's like, hey, if you need a place to display that, let me know. I really want to promote local makers and different things that people do. And, so some of those connections still kind of happen. And then we also have businesses in the community that are established, but have been able to take advantage of the space to verify whether or not they should purchase some additional equipment. Would this be beneficial for them to, to add that to their line? Will it really increase their productivity or their profit margins? And so we've had about 3 different businesses that, after having memberships, have been able to validate that purchase their own, and kind of grow and expand from there. So some really good opportunities with that, as well.
Can you talk about how um, you connect to the overall community in Brookings? How do people interact with you in that way?
With our office as a whole, or in my role?
Mm. Well, as the makerspace, or in your role, or as the makerspace.
Sure. So we try to promote in a variety of ways. Number one, with Lawrence and his word of mouth. Um, but individuals find their information in a variety of different ways. So again, I mentioned those maker mixers, and sometimes those are we do those kind of as an open house too, to get people to just come in and see what it is. I give tours, and I ask everybody, tell 3 people that don't know about the makerspace about it. I try to speak to different civic organizations when I can, typically. The Optimist, Ollie, the Lions, those kinds of groups. We promote the stuff on our social media platforms. We recently established a makerspace page and group, and so the makers can interact that way as well, online as well as in person. We found that to be pretty helpful. Some people had some questions. They were there, and something wasn't working quite right, and they threw something up on the board, the Facebook, and somebody replied right away and helped him work through that, so that even though it wasn't in person, it was still that connection they needed, and they could keep moving that way. We promoted on campus to the students there. Again, students, you just need to be 18 or older to be in the space for that. So we on the radio every once in a while, Bob from the radio calls, and we talk about it. We promote it a couple different ways with the business community. We have some businesses that support the membership as far as like a continuing education or professional development for their employees, and so they pay for the membership for that individual. And so they use it as a recruitment or retention tool. And so maybe if you're looking at the Brookings community or another community, and you and or your partner is creative and wants that kind of outlet, and the other community you're looking at doesn't have that, and it might help in making that decision. And so we try to advocate that they talk about it just as part of a community resource as well. And we I kind of lost my train of thought there. We do that part of it, and then I had another one. Maybe it'll come back to me. But we try to, however, whomever will stop and listen. Like if I could redo it, I'd do a Starbucks in there,
Yeah,
Lawrence.
there you go.
Everybody knows, and everybody goes to a Starbucks. And
There
then,
you go.
like you said, there was a learning curve. People just didn't understand, what is a makerspace. But for some of us on the call that maybe have been around a little bit longer, we remember shop class in
Yes,
high school, right? So
yeah,
this is that opportunity to do that, to have access to those tools and equipment if you don't have space or the resources to have them on your own. So
sure.
yeah, and I'm always open. If you've got an idea for a way to connect to people, let us know, because there's 6 ways to Sunday with that. So
Yeah. Well, one of the key words that you've mentioned, and one of the things I'm very keenly interested in, is creativity. In South Dakota, uh, it seems like a lot of our creatives leave town before the ink dries on their high school diploma. And so I'm interested in the makerspace. One of the reasons I'm interested in the makerspace is because it offers an opportunity for creative expression. And normally we think about just, let's say, an artist like painting or something like that. But can you talk to us about how the makerspace enhances creativity, and what place that has in South Dakota culture?
I would look at it as supporting creativity 100%, right? Really, there are no boundaries there. If because in addition to the tools and stuff that we have there, if there's something that you want to bring into the space and utilize to enhance some of the equipment or the space, you can certainly do that. But what we really, really are advocating for that concept of lifelong learning and making, learning by doing, experimenting and prototyping and just embracing that creativity. So again, going back to, you don't need to have that business plan or that business idea to utilize the space, that it's really about that creativity and experimentation and making those connections. And I think that those are important things in our community, for that longevity and for that retention or recruitment back to the area, right? There's just going to be a certain amount of people that are going to have to go for a few years anyway. But if we can have the infrastructure in place that we look attractive to come back or to stay, and I feel like spaces like the Makerspace are important for that to happen. The commercial kitchen, those real community spaces where you can feel invested because you have those opportunities that are there for you. I feel like that really makes that difference. And those individuals that are in the space are like-minded, right? And so that just kind of, that momentum just kind of continues to grow, because you can have that conversation and you might think it's a little quirky, but that individual is just as quirky and they're like, oh my gosh, that's really great. And I think that you should do this and that, and just continue to expand on it. And it's those opportunities that I think are critical, for that mindset. We do a lot with the ideation and things like that in my role. And really we strive to get people to just raise their hand that they have an idea, and to kind of change that culture that you don't have to wait to do this until later, or it's not someone else, you are the someone. And we want to put these resources in place so that they're accessible to you and that you can really take advantage of that. And so that was kind of key in part of the model that we use in creating those, is to really keep them accessible and to support that creativity.
Mhm. I found it kind of like a place where you can discover that there are other people who have web feet, it's because you walk around and everybody's got shoes on and you think, oh, they're different than me because they have different shoes. But then when they take off their shoes, you say, oh, they got web feet too, and
Mhm.
now that becomes part of your web feet community,
Yeah.
because you're creative, even though you might wear different kind of shoes, and look different on the outside.
Mhm.
I want to open it up to the rest of our co-conspirators on this Zoom call. Do you guys have any questions or anything that Jennifer and I have been talking about that sparks some interest, some ideas that you might have concerning creativity or in South Dakota, or how the makerspace might enhance that creativity?
I do see we have a question in the chat about scholarships. And I did not mention, but happy to even just start out with what our rates are. And so for SDSU, or any student 18 or older, because I actually have a gentleman who's in his 70s, it's a student yet, is $15 a month. And then for a community member, it's $25 a month. So again, really striving to keep this a reasonable access to this space and to this equipment. But we have had community members reach out and say, if you have students that want access to this space and that amount is still cost prohibitive, that they would fund those students. So there are certainly opportunities that are out there for individuals that would have that need. And so we're open to having that conversation if there is that.
Mhm. Anyone with questions or comments about a makerspace?
Is anybody
I have a
engaged in
question.
one in another community?
Oh, Ryan has a question.
Jennifer, since we do stuff with the humanities here, which is a lot about like connecting people to each other, can you talk about what it is about, as opposed to like sitting by yourself and working on something, how that sharing that space with other creative, like-minded people can help you with whatever you're trying to accomplish?
I see this all the time with the entrepreneurs that I work with as well. And we really encourage them to not keep stuff so close to their chest, right? To share those thoughts and those ideas with individuals. because that, you know, Lawrence, as you had mentioned, it's that perspective, that new perspective, that fresh perspective, that other individual that, you know, is looking at the same thing you're looking at, but see something different, which really makes it grow and expand and is limitless. And so it's those opportunities for those individuals in that space or that connect offline later. You know, we have people that do stuff that have met in the makerspace and that still do stuff offline. I think that that's what's critical. And it's also a little bit, I would say, of that validation, right? When you can have that conversation, that person like, oh yeah, you know, that really does make sense or looks cool or could be really great. And then you get inspired to continue to move forward with that instead of just kind of spinning in a circle with yourself. So I think that those conversations are really important for those individuals to have. And if you find yourself in one of those conversations, to really remember that, you know, to be kind of supportive, not that you have to be a yes man, but to be kind and, you know, appropriately challenging if there's something that does seem a little odd, but to help them with that. I think that's important. Having a design background, I'm used to that creative element, but also to critiques, right? So that we can all make each other better and grow in that capacity. And that's kind of what I see what some of those relationships are. It's about growth and improvement.
I know personally, I've had people really point out some very interesting flaws in my designs, you know, and then I'll be thinking, wow, that's great, you know, and they'll look and say, well, did you ever think about what would happen if, you
Mhm.
know, or if you know, how about if you turn this like 15 degrees, how would that affect your design, you know? Or that font that you're looking at, it's going to break apart with this kind of wood. Maybe you want to use this kind of wood or use another font or something when I'm using, let's say, a laser engraver or something like that. So I find that that it's not just the advice, it's the human connection that's made when you exchange that kind of thing, or when people come in and then I'm able to help them to do something because somebody showed me you
Yeah.
know the thing that I didn't know how to use a laser engraver when I came there. You know, I didn't even really know how it worked, but now when people come in, I'm able to help them, you know, to do what somebody helped me to do,
Yep.
you know. One of the questions that came up, Jennifer, is do you ever have like round tables? One of our co-conspirators says, I have a product I want to make, but I have zero idea how to do it. It would include a plastic mold and to make the item, but I have no where to go with it. Some people, like, they're at, like she says, ground zero. They don't have any idea. Can you talk about what kind of atmosphere uh, exists
Mhm.
at the makerspace to facilitate that?
Yes, that is exactly what we want people to do. So there's that idea of raising your hand and just being brave and saying, I have that thought, that idea. And we then reach out to that group. I may know somebody specific to what you're asking about, and I can reach out to a smaller group. But oftentimes we'll throw it out to the whole group because I don't know everything about everybody, and say, hey, we've got somebody that's looking for a little bit more advice in this. Please let me know. I'd like to get you connected. Let's chat about those sorts of things. So we do that certainly with our makers in that small scale, but on a larger scale, we do that with anyone that would walk through our door. I manage about 700 and some individual mailing list. And these individuals at some point in time have said they have an interest in innovation, entrepreneurship, you know, that kind of realm of work, whether they themselves are, or they just want to support that. And so when we have an individual that has a question about something, we shoot that out to that group, and that even spider webs beyond that 700, because we have people that say, well, it's not me, but I have a friend that can help with that, and we make those connections. So that, yeah, we absolutely want. So don't don't let any of your perceived limitations hold you back, right? Because we'll figure out who that next person is to get you to keep moving with that. That's really the integral part of my role, is to, again, I think I can say to this group, because we'll all know what a Rolodex is. But that think of us as that, right? We'll figure out that next person. I certainly don't have all those answers, but I'm going to figure out that next person for you to talk to find that answer and what that might be. So yes, we love to make those connections through the Makerspace members, and then just our broader community as well that we have through BEDC.
Mhm. Are there other maker spaces that you know of in South Dakota?
There are other maker spaces. I am not aware of, but happy to be corrected, of any other community maker spaces. So you will find them. There is one in Watertown at the Lake Area Technical College. However, it's really just for that group. There are some that are in the K-12 systems. I believe Harrisburg has a pretty strong one. I think Britain might have had one, maybe still has one. But again, those spaces are really geared for those, that group or that school district. So ours is unique in the capacity that it is for the community at large. And part of the challenge with those is a couple of things, right? We wrote the grant to get the equipment, right? It's not a cheap place to set up. And it is there's an expense to keep the doors open, right? And we try to not put that on solely on the backs of the members, right? So as an organization, that is part of what we're supporting is the rent, the insurance, those sorts of things for that space, so that we can keep those membership rates as low as they are. And then insurance is also another interesting animal because it is not manned, supervised, staffed, so individuals are there on their own accord, right? We do, based on insurance, we do have video in case something awful were to have happened. We can pull that for those reasons, but that also does make it a little challenging to find that insurance coverage. And so those are some things that other communities have as hurdles, and so if you don't have kind of a parent organization, so to speak, that can keep the rent paid and the insurance paid, then it makes it kind of challenging as well. So again, it goes back to our scale. We're a smaller community kind of a thing. So,
Well, that's one of yeah, in some ways an exponent of trying to do something like this is the scalability, and making it go further um, than just the physical space, making the ideas go further. Have you ever, or have you tried having a virtual makerspace, even if it's in person, in terms of like exchanging ideas about something?
Can I add to that? Good morning, everyone. Hi, Jen.
ah,
Um, to add to that, I was thinking great minds think alike. I was thinking virtual, but I'm also thinking about being able to grab some money from some other places, because there are people who are have a challenge in being able to make money at the same point in time, like what Thea, I can't wait to see what she's got. Being able to make money from a particular product, yet and still not having the place to do that, and being able to expand on that with some of the money that's out there. Because I'm sure, because see, if nobody knows her, we had a long conversation. It was wonderful. She's just brilliant. And I know that with all of us, the web feet, I'm going to start calling myself that now, Lauren. All of us web-footed people, we would be able to make a case for that and have it be. I'm thinking, instead of a taco truck, nothing wrong with that, but having, going mobile. Why not? Bloodmobile, so on and so forth, virtual. So I think that would be something, but then, I feel I'm unlimited.
Hmm. Hmm. Bloodmobile. Is that like a taco truck for Dracula?
That's a vampire taco truck. Seriously, I saw a girl going. I said, "Oh, that's above my pay grade."
Okay, so uh, other maker spaces, I've heard of one in the Lemon School that when I was doing a art residency there, one of the teachers showed me a room that they were preparing for that. Also, uh, there's an effort in Aberdeen to do one, but what I like about the one in Brookings, which is further away from me than the Aberdeen one, which is actually kind of recent, um, is that one, you do keep the prices affordable. And I can't tell you, I mean, if you don't understand maker spaces, you can't really appreciate how cheap and how, well, I say inexpensive it is, to have the kind of equipment that you have available to you. It's amazing, you know. Then and the kind of things you can do as Naima was talking about, like, okay, you could do a business. And I've met people at the makerspace who are doing their businesses, who are doing businesses like that. But to me, though, the key thing actually comes back to the people that you meet, the community that you can make, because these things, just as a business, it can be a key step. But even in business, it's the communities that you keep. It's the relationships that you develop. It's not the widget. You think maybe it's the widgets, and it's not the widgets. Your relationships between customers, between vendors, between the people who teach you how to do stuff, or consultants. All those relationships, that's, I think, what you get if you're starting in business, or you're starting to like just escape your cultural imprisonment, whatever that culture might be. That's what I find is one of the benefits of a makerspace, because you can find there's another way that you can create community around being creative.
Mhm.
Create community around a set of creatives, and they will have different ways. They will have different art forms or things that they're doing, but the through thread is the creativity
Mhm.
that they all have, and they tend to appreciate that. With each between they spot, even if they're doing laser engraving, the person who's doing welding, he gets that you are, um, if you're working on the welder can connect with the laser engraver, right? And
Mhm.
they can have a conversation that's about neither of those things, but they appreciate the connection there. And I might add that these people are often people who, they don't share your religion, they don't share your politics, they don't share any of those other cultural things, but they connect with you on that creative level.
Mhm.
And that's the beginning. To me, that's the beginning of being able to, how do you connect with people who just, you think, is this guy out of his mind? There's a way, there's the door is. And if you can get a conversation about that started, they hear the other things that you have to say, whereas before they didn't even hear you. You weren't a thing, but now, because they connect with you on that level, at least they can hear what you have to say as in something other than an adversarial role. So I see this as a gateway.
That's a great perspective of that.
Mm.
Yeah, I like that.
Other ideas, questions?
I have a question.
Mm, mm.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Oh,
So, my name is Crystal Owen. I'm from Sisseton. I never heard of a maker space before, but I'm really intrigued by coming to Bismarck to check that out.
So they're
Can
in
I do
Brookings.
that?
They're in Brookings.
Oh, Brookings.
Yeah,
Can I do
that's
that?
Absolutely. Yep.
And then, like, is there a, do we have to make a reservation, or is there like, do you have to set up a certain time because of
Um,
the COVID? What kind
yeah,
of,
it is helpful. Like as today I'm working from home, so I'm not there every day. There either 2 or 3 days a week. So just knowing the day would be great. If you could give that. But ideally if you know about what time. But
okay.
yeah, happy to give you a tour and chat about it, answer questions. Yep.
So if I had a membership, I would just, do I have like a swipe card or something? And then if
Yeah.
I want to, anytime I want to go in there, I just go in.
Yep. Thanks for bringing that up. So we do issue a key card access, and we have the hours set up from 6 a.m. to midnight every day of the week. So again, 7-day access. And when I promote it to the students, I say it's just 3 stops at Starbucks and you can be here for 30 days. So so pretty economical for them. But yeah, we try to extend those hours, and yet we do have a limitation on it just for safety. You know, people get tired and things happen. But yeah, we'd love to give you a tour, and anyone else you'd like to bring along.
Yeah. Is there, like, do you have software for like feasibility studies? I'm kind of interested in, feasibility studies cost a lot of money, like if you have a business plan. So is there a way, like, do you have to go to, I mean, like, who does it? There's just some questions I have on feasibility studies. And, I mean, some like we've paid upwards of 50 to 100,000 for one. I don't know if that's, if we're getting ripped off or what, but,
Probably.
um, and like, who could, like, how can I be a do feasibility studies on something? Those are just some ideas I have as far as, and then business plans. Do you have software that help with business plans, things like that?
And so those kind of fall into my other
Other role.
non-makerspace role. But yeah, so we sit down and we chat with you, talking through with what that idea is. We can help with the format of that business plan. We can do another, take another look at it after you've kind of started, help massage that a little bit, get you connected to whatever that next step might be, if that's additional funding through a financial institution. If you're looking for some feasibility studies, we would encourage kind of doing some of that initially, taking a look at that market, verifying that need that's out there, and doing a little dive initially. Because again, what can we do quickly without a big investment to kind of make some decisions from that? And then based upon whatever that industry is that you're looking at, determine who might be a good resource for that feasibility study. And again, this goes back to our ecosystem, and we lean on other resources in our community. So we've got a small business development center. We have Enterprise Institute that does a lot of angel investing. The university, I engage with those individuals on a daily basis in a variety of different colleges on the campus. So we really try to leverage a lot of those resources that we can to get you as much information up front.
That sounds promising. I know when, before I came on Makerspace, I'm like, I'm not creative at all. I don't really make anything. I don't, I'm always thinking I'm not a creative person. But then when I'm sitting here listening, I think I am kind of creative. I mean, like, I like to take pictures. I have ideas. I'm making collages, story collages, things, maybe something on storytelling, how to tell a good story,
Yep.
using pictures, short videos. So yeah, I think I might come and check that out.
Yeah. Well, and this is exactly the kind of thing, Crystal, that I think that the makerspace is about. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have Jennifer on, is because, a lot of people there are like isolated out of these kind of wonderful opportunities. And so they think, the world has told them that they're not creative and they can't do anything. All they can do is like punch in a clock and, and that's it. That's the end of their use. And if they get sick, you kick them to the curb,
Yeah.
But no, there are all these other possibilities. And if people can like just move into those and have an opportunity to see, I hope you will come to the makerspace. If you just see the CNC work, your brain will be rearranged. You know, imagine a machine that you could put a glued up piece of wood that's, let's say, 3 inches thick, right? That's the size of, a little bit bigger than the size of a door. Learn how to push a button and it carves out a whole door for you. Imagine that. You can have, you want windows, you want trim, you want whatever, you just draw it on the computer, punch that button, and it cuts out the door, right? Now, so you start thinking about that. And if you could do a door, you can do a window. You can do a window, you can do a table. You can do, there are all these things that you can do. You guys have, up, because I know Crystal, another one of my sisters, sister meets sister. You guys do a lot of awards, right? Go to the makerspace and you could come down and make all of the awards on that laser thing. And you can make them out of whatever material you have. Well, pretty much. There are some things that are not laserable, but glass, plastic, wood, all of those things, you can make your own awards, say what you want, and it costs you the ride, your $25 a month fee plus a ride to Brookings. And that's it. Bring a lunch and you got it done. There are so many, I could go on and on and on about this because I'm really excited about it. And again, I come back to the fact that if you are there, you're going to meet people who you can get eyeballs with, and that relationship is going to open up a whole other world to you. That's my ticket out. Any other questions, comments?
Crystal, I really would get with the space, and I would get with Jennifer, because she will, when she says flush it out and do this, that, and the other, you'll be just you'll. After our conversation, I had to slap myself to get the smile off my face. That's how great it is. So I encourage you, and and if you don't bring a lunch, if you want to drive to Elkton, I'll feed you. That's not a problem.
Well, we're coming up to the end of our little chat here, and I hope that you guys have not only learned a few things about some opportunities, not only to do things, but to meet people and expand our creative our creative community, but also that you can go forward now and take advantage of this opportunity. Any closing things that you would like to say, Jennifer? Anything that we've left out?
Well, thank you very much for letting me be part of the group today and for letting you know about the Makerspace. I'll consider this kind of a virtual tour. So I'll ask that each of you share with 3 people who don't know about the Makerspace that it's there, but absolutely would love to give you guys all an opportunity to take a look at it. And like Lawrence says, it's just the beginning, right? There are no limits, there are no boundaries. So whatever your thoughts or ideas are, we'd love to hear about them.
Mm-hmm. Any other closing thing? Anything that anybody else has? Oh, Crystal, the contact information is up at the top of the chat. You'll see something. It says BEDC Brookings. So that's a page. And otherwise, do you have a email or something, Jennifer,
Yep.
that you can put in the chat?
Yeah.
Will do.
I love your earrings, Crystal.
Thank you. Somebody made, that's a symbol of our Sundance uh, society. So
Sundance Society.
yeah.
Oh, we'll have to hook up because I didn't even know that existed.
Mhm. Yeah, email me. We could visit, talk on the phone or whatever.
I'll
That'd be
put
nice.
I'm putting my email in right now.
Okay,
And
all right.
Crystal's is also in there, Naima.
Huh? What'd you say?
Crystal's email is also, if you look in the chat, Crystal has put her email in there, so you can get hers as well. And
Oh, okay.
yeah,
I'll just save the thing. I like saving.
yeah.
Okay.
Next
Thank
week
you.
we're at 7 in the evening, Ryan?
Yes, we had a time conflict, so we've also been kind of wanting to try that just because I know there's folks who can't make it during the daytime. So for next week we're gonna try a 7 p.m. and I hope you can still make it, Naima.
Oh, my Thursday just got deeper, didn't it, Lawrence?
Yeah. I, I misunderstood you anyway, Ryan. I'll talk to you about it later, but I misunderstood what you were talking about when you said doing it at 7. I misunderstood that. I'll talk to you about it later.
Oh,
But
okay.
that might not be a bad thing though. We won't have Jennifer because she answered the thing, but the other folks that might not, give it a try. It might work because we enjoy this. This is fabulous. So
Does that still work for you, Lawrence? Sorry, we must have had a miscommunication.
Um, Hold on a second.
Got some signals crossed there.
Yeah.
it's
Uh,
it's the full moon thingy, the wolf
yeah,
moon
yeah,
coming
yeah,
up.
yeah. Um, okay. Well, we can try it. We can try it, but I do have another conflict. In the conflict, well, we'll talk about it. There's no reason to waste people's time here. Okay, so okay, we'll try it next week, Thursday at 7, and then you'll get a notice anyway. Uh, yeah, let's try that.
All right. Sorry about that confusion, folks. We hope you join us next week, and thank you to everybody for coming. And Jennifer, you're welcome to join us every week. We hope that you do, and
Yep,
maybe you
yep,
can
yep.
tell 3 people for us.
I will, definitely.
And let's add more goddesses.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's great.
All right. Well, we'll see all of you next week
Okay.
at 7.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Okay. Bye.